Behind every military mission is a community working to support the men and women who serve. From fitness centers and recreation programs to entertainment and quality of life services, military recreation plays a vital role in keeping service members connected, resilient, and mission ready. Welcome to On The Frontline, the Military Rec Show, where we explore the unique world of morale, welfare, and recreation, also known as MWR, and the professionals who dedicate their careers to serving those who serve. Hosted by longtime Navy MWR leader John Prue, this show brings conversations with leaders, innovators, and partners shaping recreation programs across military installations around the world. In today's episode, we dive into the impact of military recreation and the partnerships that help make it possible. This is On The Frontline, powered by the DPRS Media Network. Let's dive in. All right, we are live again with the Daily Parks and Rec. This is a teaser, inaugural voyage, our first ever show for On The Frontline, the Military Rec Show with host John Prue. We have a special guest we'll be bringing on about 10 minutes into the show. But how are you doing today, John?
Oh, I'm doing awesome. I am doing awesome. How about you, Craig?
Man, I'm loving it. I love these 2 days of cool weather we get in New Orleans. Typically, it's hot as heck around here, but loving it while it's here.
Yeah.
All right. So before we get started, I did want to play a couple of promos for one of our big sponsors, Outdoor Link. They just, if you want to turn your city on and off with the flip of a cell phone, they can turn off splash pads, water fountains, sports field lights. It's one of the great techs that's coming in versus having to switch on and off breakers and stuff. And they've been a great supporter of our show, and we're actually launching a smart city show with them. That'll be a weekly show, similar to what we're doing right now with On The Frontline. And then I'll also play a little promo of how vendors in the community of Parks and Rec can get more involved. As soon as we play those two, we'll come back and we'll launch On The Frontline. One of our great shows that we're launching. So see you back in a bit.
Sounds
in
good.
Today's parks and recreation industry, communication, safety, and efficiency go hand in hand. That's where Outdoor Link comes in, delivering smart technology that empowers city departments and community planners to do more, smarter. Outdoor Link's platform connects and automates everything that keeps your parks running smoothly, from lighting and locks to signage, water features, Wi-Fi, and digital advertising. Control and schedule park lights for safety and energy savings. Remotely manage facility access. Update digital displays in real time. Coordinate fountains and splash pads. Provide public connectivity. And even run community or sponsorship campaigns on digital screens. All from one simple, unified platform, giving you real-time control, data, and cost efficiency. For parks and recreation agencies, that means safer spaces, smarter resource use, faster responses, and stronger community engagement. And behind every great park story is great infrastructure. That's why Outdoor Link proudly supports DPRS Media Company, helping the Daily Parks and Rec Show amplify the voices of professionals shaping our communities every day. Outdoor Link, smart, connected solutions for parks, recreation, and beyond.
Are you a vendor, brand, or service provider ready to connect with the heartbeat of local communities? At DPRS Media Co., we tell the stories shaping parks and recreation across America. Through podcasts, live streams, videos, and newsletters, we reach frontline leaders, city directors, and decision makers every single week. From youth sports and facilities to programming and policy, our audience is your audience. Sponsoring or partnering with DPRS Media Co. puts your brand in front of the professionals who build, budget, and buy for their communities. Launching a new product, growing your presence in public spaces, targeting cities, counties, or departments, DPRS is your trusted media partner. Whether you're in software, turf, aquatics, robotics, smart cities, or special events, partnering with DPRS puts your brand in the story. With commercials, interviews, social campaigns, newsletters, and live shows, we're your media team. Partner with us and grow your impact in the $200 billion parks and rec industry. DPRS Media Co. Stories that move Parks and Rec forward. Your audience is here. Let's meet them.
All right, so John, maybe we can start off by just introducing yourself. Just tell us a little bit about who you are, your background in Parks and Rec, and then we can go on to talking about
Sure.
what we're trying to do.
Sure. Well, hey, my name is John Prue, and I have worked with the Navy MWR for 39 years, actually.
Wow.
Matter of fact, just about the anniversary date here. Yes, no, the other day on the, yeah. So 39 years, but as you can see on my title, I'm only here for about 2 more weeks. I officially retire at the end of the month. But my career started back. I did my undergrad at University of Wisconsin La Crosse and did an internship at Naval Station Great Lakes. I didn't even know there was such a thing as armed forces recreation. To be honest, I really didn't. I found out about it through a classmate and said, "Hey, you need to check this out for your internship." I saw they had bowling centers and golf courses and food and beverage facilities and movie theaters. They had a lot of cool stuff that I thought would frankly look good on my resume. So I said, okay, 16-week internship, I'm doing it. So I went over to Great Lakes, really enjoyed my time. Not only was it great to do something practical in what I was studying, but I saw the impact on sailors, and Great Lakes is kind of the Navy's only boot camp, and so a lot of junior sailor people, ki- men and women who have been away from home maybe for the first time, kind of in this new environment, and so these programs that we were running, whether they were recreational or fitness related or whatever it was, you saw the impact on them, and it really kind of connected with me in those first 16 weeks, and then, of course, I was lucky enough, they offered me a job at the end of my internship. So I finished on a Friday. I went back and walked graduation on Saturday. And on Monday, I started my full time job. And here we are 39 years later. And
Wow.
matter of fact, I never left Great Lakes. I series of promotions. I moved up the ranks. I was the recreation director for about 15 years, and then I think for the last 13 years, I was the MWR director there. So I went from
Mhm.
intern to the director, and stayed there for 34 years. I retired on another side of the system 5 years ago, and then finished out my last 5 years as a civil servant working for Navy Region Mid Atlantic as a MWR program analyst, supporting the 23 bases and or annex sites over on the East Coast and kind of folded over into Great Lakes. So
Mm.
just taking care of sailors, serving those who serve, and that's kind of what I've been doing for 39 years, but I love it. I really
Yeah.
do love it.
Now, what's one thing for those that really aren't familiar with how you serve those who serve that's a little bit different than your average Parks and Rec
Yeah,
director?
yeah, no, that's a good point. I think, we're an entity for the military, a tool in the toolbox of military leadership to keep people focused on the mission, keep that morale, that spirit, that esprit de corps. So, we're there to improve readiness, not only for the active duty member, but also their family. Again, create unit cohesion and esprit de corps. A lot of our programs do that to support the military, improve self-esteem, reduce stress, keep those young active duty sailors, soldiers, Marines, right across the board, keep them safe and making good choices when they have spare time. I think we overall improve quality of life with our programs, and then also retention is a big deal. The military
Mhm.
invests a lot of people in a volunteer force, and if they turn around and do their 4 years and out, that's just a lot of money spent. You want to retain the best of the best and go there. And
Mhm.
morale, welfare, and recreation, and what we do is part of it. And again, we run fitness centers, we run community recreation centers, we have a deployed forces section that is strong. We have libraries under us. We run ticket and travel offices. We have commercial entities like food and beverage operations, direct
Mm.
run food and beverage operations, golf courses, bowling centers, movie theaters, recreational lodging, whether it's cabins, cottages, RV campgrounds, and then a host of other miscellaneous recreational or commercial entities that really support. A military base is kind of like a city. and we have every support element you can imagine, and that kind of falls under our umbrella. In addition, we're linked. It's kind of a separate organization, but Child and Youth Services is meshed with us, especially at the youth activities level when we're talking youth sports and various other things. So we support them too. Quite honestly, the industry of Department of the War now, when you're talking MWR and Child and Youth Services, you're talking about a $4.5 billion industry and
Wow.
spread out over across the world at about 300 major installations, and of course some deployed forces activities that we do. And I think we'll talk about later in the show when we bring in our guest.
Yeah. Yeah. I love how you kind of defined how it's literally like a fully autonomous city that you can drop in the middle of nowhere, and it's lacking nothing.
Yeah,
And it's a lot more than a department within a city that has the city around it that can make it
yeah.
move a little.
Yeah, the CO is like kind of like the mayor or the city manager of the town. He may have various tenant commands who are strictly into war fighting, but he's in control of operating that base or installation to make sure everything works smoothly. I mean, he has a public works department, he has security. Some of those are military, but he has a civilian police force and fire department. We've got counseling and social services through kind of our umbrella of quality of life. And of course, we have a park and recreation department or MWR department to support.
Mm,
So, yeah, it's like running a city for those commanding officers
yeah.
who are in charge of a base.
All right. So before we bring our guest on the show, Ari, which is one of those great vendors that helps you serve um,
Yeah, he does.
the
Yeah,
soldiers. Um,
he and his
what
team do some outstanding things for sure.
Yeah, I can't wait to bring him on the show here in a minute. But let's maybe talk about the vision we have for what we can do with this show and kind of what our intention
Yeah.
is, laying that out. So this is our first show.
Yeah, we're really super happy that you asked me to kind of take the reins and really get something going. I've been involved with National Park and Recreation Association for many, many years throughout my career, currently on the board of directors, and very involved with the network, Armed Forces Recreation Network. And although this is not an official podcast of the NRPA or the Armed Forces Network, we certainly support those professionals, and we definitely have a good agreement with them. And so the ability to offer up a weekly podcast that's all things military recreation and MWR is going to be awesome. And it's called On the Frontline, the Military Rec
Mhm.
Show. And we're super happy to get this thing rolling in January and just have conversations about the uniqueness of what we do, to even some of the similarities to our brethren in the parks and recreation field. So
Yeah.
I think we can really take this off. But we got people all over the world, and some really good conversations that can come about, helping to one maybe better conquer some topics that are maybe a little tricky for those that are in the business, and
Mhm.
maybe even tease some people that are in the parks and rec business or looking to change careers and say, you know what, working for the Department of War, working for the Navy, working for the Army, doing these fun things just might be a career for me, and we can help them through that as well. So
Yeah.
who knows where this podcast is going to
Yeah.
go?
But I think a natural fit for us as far as the value we can bring is oftentimes, you ever heard that expression, you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah,
And had I only known that this was a career, I might have started out here. So I think one thing we can do is just raise awareness
yeah,
about this as a career path, either in the military or how you serve the military. Because I think if Parks and Rec is one of the best kept secrets, this is like one of the best kept secrets of the best kept secret that you can also do Parks and Rec for the military.
yeah. And I also am part of the American Academy for Parks and Recreation Administration, and so on a working committee, kind of working with some NRPA folks, we're on a group that's talking about career development, and through a partnership with NRPA, we created a website there, that says Career Choice Parks and Recreation, and there's an actual link for Armed Forces Recreation or MWR off that page. But if you go to NRPA and just put career choice or choice career parks and recreation, you'll see a wealth of information that's out there about Parks and Recreation as a career, but also, again, a link specific to MWR, military recreation. So, so important because we don't know where the next generation is coming. I think that's an issue in Parks and Recreation. It definitely is an issue with us in the Department of War on our next MWR professionals that are coming up the
Mhm.
ranks. We need to find the best of the best. So you need to get out there and really talk about it.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll be the kind of marketing arm of getting the word out of this as a career path. All right,
Yeah, that
so
sounds good.
we love taking people into the kitchen, showing us how we make the sausage. One of the things is we did make a logo. That's our version 1. I think version 2 should have the font size bigger so that we can read it. Maybe
Or
in white.
just make it bigger. Period.
Yeah. Yeah. So here's our logo, and then we're bringing on our first guest. Why don't you? I'll bring him on, and then you can introduce him, and then we have some questions for him as well, so we can talk about the services he provides to the military with his company. So, welcome to the show, Ari.
Hey, everybody. Good to see you.
Yep.
Hey, Ari. Ari Nisman is the president and CEO of Degy Entertainment, and they do some great stuff. But that really leads me into my first question. Really, tell us about Degy Entertainment, because it's not easy to define. You're not just a booking agency. You actually provide solutions for the agencies you cover, whether it's colleges, whether it's the military, you support it, and we're going to focus on that today. But whether it's corporate America, whoever your clients are, you provide those solutions. So tell us a little bit about Degy and what it's all about and what you do.
Sounds great. Well, congrats on launching the show. Happy to be the first guest. I think de facto I might have been the only potential guest that didn't have to clear this with his PAO. So be here for purpose. Degy was started while I was in college, quite candidly. It wasn't necessarily that music was going to be a course in life for me. I'm probably a bigger sports fan, admittedly, than I am music. Like John, I'm glued to the television every Saturday, Sunday, and every day in between for sports. But I saw a little bit easier and clearer path for myself in music, took an internship into a job, and that hobby became life for the last 29 years. Degy is out there to serve all the different markets around the world. We're proud to be a partner with the Department of War and our partners at different installations and programs. But we serve colleges and we serve the corporate market and the special event market and camps and country clubs. And so we get to see things from a whole bunch of different angles. We get to work with all sorts of different artists and clients. And then it's an exciting business. I never thought I'd be doing this. Like John, I kind of got into something that I didn't expect in an internship. And who knows, I guess life took this path, and I'm very excited that we can now support the Department of War.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, Degy, I don't even know if I've ever asked you this. We've known each other for a few years. Where'd that name come from?
Well, if anybody follows my social media, I celebrated his 50th birthday this past weekend in New Jersey on a surprise. But Degy was the nickname of my first partner that started the company with me in 1996, 97. And, like two college stupid kids that were trying to figure out, how do you name a company? Who becomes what? How do you incorporate this thing? How do you make money? How do you open a bank account? We were having confusion around how we combine the two of our names. I say, you take Degy, your nickname, as the company name. I'll take the presidency. And that's where we laid. So Josh was with me for several years, but that's how that all started. And it's under his name. And we're still friends 30 years later.
That's awesome. He's not involved with the company anymore?
He's not. He stayed with me for a couple of the first few years. And then I think we were seeing a little bit of a shift in how we wanted to take the company forward. And at some point, I bought his interest out in the company. We didn't have much cash or money at the time, nor did I, to do it, but found a way to put a couple of shekels together and made it happen. But Josh stayed on. He, served a great role in our management team and the development of the agency back in 2001, and then decided he was going to go into another area of the business, and I moved onward from there.
Hey, Ari, I love the evolution of businesses. They always start off in an area you don't expect. And so what were some of your early ideas of what kind of media, what kind of entertainment were you thinking back then in the college days?
Yeah, when we first started the company, we were actually a management company. Degy was Degy Management Services Incorporated back when we started in 1997. We managed artists. We found that managing artists often meant putting more money into the acts than actually getting it back. And we were also struggling with trying to find our niche across the industry. We weren't getting our artists signed. We weren't getting agencies to book our acts. And so the real next big transition was in 2001 when I said we either had to go buy an agency or we had to form an agency because we couldn't get our acts out on the road and be visible and start a touring career. That led to the creation of Degy Booking International and sent us off on the way. But I think like any business, we were two small guys with maybe a little bit of a vision, trying to learn it on their own. Neither of us had formal experience. There weren't a lot of music schools or classes, these industry, giants now that are at different college institutions were just not around in 1996 and 97. So he was a business guy. I was kind of a communications business guy. And we found our niche by getting into the college space and trying to super serve certain kind of markets. And that's really when we started to develop a little bit of what Degy was going to be about. It wasn't going to be trying to compete for all the business against all the major agencies or management companies. We were going to super serve certain categories, and that allowed us to carve our space.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Yeah. How you form a career, form a business, all those pitfalls, and if you could tell people the little secrets of the mistakes we all made along the way, it's crazy. But if you learn from your mistakes, you can succeed.
Yeah,
So,
they're always part of the story, though, right? Like
yeah.
sure, do I have some regrets maybe along the way? But then I look at it that every mistake that I made was some sort of springboard to a solution that wound up forming this company, and I wouldn't be where I am now if we didn't make those mistakes. It's what you learn. It's how you persevere. I think it's how it, in the time of challenge and in
Yeah.
difficult times is when you're at your best, proven during many by the pandemic or other areas that, whether it's life or business or otherwise, that's how you wind up actually developing character to success.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah, and it
Absolutely.
really is kind of hard to know what you're going to do outside of just starting. I would suggest any entrepreneur just go. You'll figure it out along the way. There's no way to know exactly how it's going to play out.
You can overthink it sometime, and then you just get paralysis, and you don't move. You don't take the chance. So
Yeah.
awesome. So we're gonna focus more about your business related to the armed forces or MWR world a little bit. So I was reflecting back on how the heck did I even meet Ari or hear about Ari or Degy Entertainment? How did I? So I would go back and I was combing through history, and I was out on a Navy Entertainment tour with Karen Fritz. We took out the Green Bay Packers after their last Super Bowl. That's the bad part. It's been a long time, 2011. And anyways, we were taking 8 people from the organization out on this Middle East tour. It was a crazy tour. It actually, no one thought they were going to get to the Super Bowl. We were going to be a Super Bowl party entertainment for one of the ships, and ended up coming post Super Bowl. So it was crazy. But crazy tour, 19,000 miles. You can relate, Ari. You've been on quite a few of these things. 14 stops, 5 different countries, and a number of ship visits, including an arrested landing, my one and only arrested landing on the USS Carl Vinson in the middle of the Arabian Ocean. And in 2011, a lot going on there. That was about 3 or 4 months before they ended up getting Bin Laden and everything. So it was a crazy time. These guys had not been in port for like 5 months, and they were still out at sea. So even if you weren't even if you were a Chicago Bear fan, you were happy to see the Green Bay Packers on there.
What's an
Anyway,
arrested landing? I've never even heard that term.
that's when the good old fashioned C2 Greyhound cod, which comes in, comes into a carrier on the water, and they use the tail hook, and they're caught by a cable. It's called an arrested landing. So
Okay.
yeah, you're going, I don't know how fast, to zero pretty darn quick.
I
And
bet.
Ari's been on more than one of those, so he knows. And then they catapult you off when you leave off the ship, which is pretty interesting too, because as I remember right, we're sitting backwards and we're being pushed off of a ship, and we're out in the air and flying back home from there. So yeah, it's pretty cool.
If you
But
hate roller coasters and you hate flying,
That's not a good.
the worst combination. So
yeah,
I'm the first one that gets volunteered to go on all them because I hate both of those things and they just torture me.
You love
But
it.
it's an experience.
I bet.
yeah, it was pretty interesting. But reason I bring it up is Karen was on that tour in the first part. We went to a bunch of different places and did some signings and various other things. And she didn't tell me before I got out there that she was leaving to go to Japan for a Macy Gray concert. And that's, I think, the first time I heard Degy and Ari, the name out there. And I'm like, I don't know. You're just telling me you're leaving me with the Green Bay Packers in the Middle East, and while you're going to Japan, and you didn't tell me that before I signed up for this. So what are you doing, Karen? So that was the first time. And then more specifically, we were at APCA. Karen put together a Navy breakout session at APCA in Atlanta. I think it was 2014. And I was doing a spiel on fireworks and laser shows, and we had a bunch of different people up there. And your name came up quite often. And matter of fact, encouragement to use think about using the IDIQ contract and starting to do that. And then obviously we ran a big 4th of July festival at Great Lakes that we did for many years, and we eventually, I think, brought you guys in 17 or 18, and then you guys took it from there. And we thought we knew what we were doing. We were doing it for 20 years, and we had a pretty good system down pat at Great Lakes. But when we started working with you and I think Evan on your team, it was like, holy crap, we're good, but we're not that good. And it was easy to just let you take over and manage the talent and the hiccups and tell us what we needed to do and how to do it. So that's kind of the history behind knowing. But with that, when did it really start for you with the military? Because that's, again, it's a kind of a niche market. People don't even know about it. You got into it for booking bands and managing bands, then booking bands. Obviously, there's a huge college market. Now all of a sudden, there's this military thing. So tell me a little bit about that history with military.
Yeah, I think it goes back to trying to find the niche, right? So as I said, we really started to super serve the college market and started to gain our traction there. Once you can kind of see what works in the college market, the age, the demographic portrays very similarly to what we do in the Department of War. You know, that young sailor, soldier, airman, Marine is that same sort of kid that should have been in college but chose to serve our country. And there happened to be a meeting in Las Vegas. It was several of the different military organizations that support events and entertainment. Nobody really showed up, but this guy decided to go out there, and I got my chance to shoot my shot. I pitched them on the fact that we were already supporting colleges and college-aged individuals, and I said, "Give me a shot." I believe right around that same time, I had my first, at least documented that I can remember, a military show. I was supporting a client, Natalie Stovall, who has now
Oh,
become the face of Nashville and on all the TV networks.
yeah, she's
She's
made it big.
Keith Urban's guitar player and vocalist. She's in Runaway June. But Natalie was just young Natalie at the time that I was developing out of Nashville. And in July 4th of 2007, I remember doing a Navy show out at Point Loma. And that's my first one that I can remember. But right around that same time happened that meeting, and I got lucky that two people took a chance with me and on me, and I'll never forget that. Joe Lavelle from the Army, who out of IMCOM has always been a supporter for entertainment and always been a great partner. Joe said, "Let me see if you can book your first ever big show." And that became Bone Crusher at Fort Knox in September of 2007.
Oh,
And then the other one was the aforementioned Karen Fritz from Navy Entertainment, to develop that program into a superpower Karen took a shot with me as my first OCONUS tour outside the continental United States. And Karen needed an act to go over to Asia, I believe it was, or to the Middle East. And she said, who can you get? And I got her Edwin McCain. It worked. She then said, I've got an Asia nuclear carrier coming in. Have you ever done a ship show? I might have nodded my head yes. I don't remember. Either which way, she had the confidence.
Sure. Yeah, sure.
I'll figure it out, right? And we had Smash Mouth do that tour. Yeah. And then after that, she said, can you get a cleanish hip hop act to go overseas? And that wound up being Young Jock. And I think after tours 1, 2, and 3 with her, a couple of shows with the Army, is when I really started to cement myself as being able to support our partners in DOW.
Yeah.
That's great.
Right, so we're at the halftime. We'll play a little commercial break for our facilities maintenance show and promote our Young Professionals Network show, which is now moved to Thursdays at 5. And then we'll come back and finish our conversation with John and Ari.
Behind every thriving park, every safe playground, every event-ready field, there's a team working before sunrise and long after sunset. This is Facility Maintenance, the only show created for and by the unsung heroes of Parks and Recreation. Brought to you by DPRS Media Co., where real work gets real recognition. From restrooms to rec centers, HVAC to turf tech, we go beyond the job site into the heart of operations that keep our communities moving. Our mission? To elevate maintenance teams through stories, solutions, and shared experience. Our vision? A world where every facility crew is seen, valued, and fully supported. Each episode features operators, innovators, and leaders, sharing tools, tech, and tactics that make the impossible look easy. Facility maintenance isn't just a job, it's purpose, it's passion, and now it's a show. Facility Maintenance, where tools meet purpose, where work becomes legacy. On the Daily Parks and Rec Show, we bring you the real stories of tomorrow's professionals, people shaping the future, one idea at a time. Meet the very first DPRS interns to officially host their own segment, Aidan Tierney and Michael Morrow. With curiosity, passion, and a fresh perspective, they're stepping into the spotlight to lead meaningful conversations with today's rising leaders. The Young Professionals Network takes you inside the journeys, challenges, and major wins of young individuals making their mark across industries. From first jobs to bold ventures, every story fuels growth, ambition, and innovation. Each episode brings real conversations, fresh perspectives, and impactful insights created to motivate the next generation of professionals. Whether you're just starting out, exploring new paths, or figuring out your next move. Tune in to the Young Professionals Network every Thursday at 5 p.m. only on the Daily Parks and Rec Show. Don't miss it, because your next big idea might be one story away.
All right, we're back. As you were, man. What's our next question, John?
Oh, yeah. Hey, first of all, curious, do you remember that Macy Gray tour that pulled Karen away from me in the middle of in Bahrain?
I remember booking it. I remember some discussion about a lot of makeup and prep time before each show. There've been a lot of tours over the year. That one kind of blends in with some of the rest.
Yeah, that's awesome. How does that work? I mean, we may have some people listening out there that are program event coordinators, and I know we have an IDIQ contract, which is really kind of a centralized contract that we can piggyback off of to make it easy for purchases. So I don't really want to get into that, but just from anybody that would be booking you for a small scale, performance act or whatever, how does the payment work? I've heard people ask that. They're like, well, is it part of the fee of the entertainer, or are you adding on your booking fee? Obviously, you should get paid for your services. You guys do incredible stuff to support us. How does that all work? Take us a peek behind the curtain, how that all works.
Well, without talking too much about the contract itself, it
Yeah.
really is what details the entire course of how we work on behalf of the Department of War. But somebody comes to us, it could be through one of the military programs that we've mentioned, whether it's the folks at Navy Entertainment, Army Entertainment, Air Force Entertainment, AFE, or whoever it is, or at the installation level, if there's a POC there, everybody gets to leverage off of that centralized contract, no matter what service that they serve in. And they come to us sometimes with something small, something huge, something really huge, or they come to us with a problem of how they can't get it through their regional contracting officer, or they can't figure out how to sole source contract it, or the entity itself doesn't have the right insurance to be able to stand up of the needs of the government. So we're kind of that clearinghouse. We're the person that, takes the full level of responsibility to contract on behalf of the United States Department of War. And so they kind of use us as that clearinghouse. We get a piece of the action for doing so, and obviously booking, executing, counseling, overseeing, and we get them the artist and deliver on everything that we need to do from our end.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's a huge resource and ability to be able to do that, whether it's a small one-off type event or, obviously bigger things. We're going to talk about concerts and a little bit later. I did notice that you are doing some pretty cool things. The Navy has an initiative called the virtual single sailor program, and it's trying to transform and connect sailors, especially in the barracks, in a different way, trying to kind of piggyback or parallel with the single sailor liberty program or boss program in the Army. Taking care of them, but doing it through virtual events. And I know you've been a major source behind that, being able to provide some of these things. Can you tell me a little bit about that program and how you got involved in some of the things you're doing to support that program?
I really think, the virtual thing, for me at least, got born out of the pandemic, and we got pretty good at it with things like our Avatar Metaverse Degy World and some of the programs that we helped serve, even some for the military where we virtualized programs for NextCom and the folks there. But, VSSP has been a way for, folks to connect with maybe other folks across the network, right? Meet their other sailors. But really for us to bring in professionals, whether it be skills-based, whether it be fun and entertainment, whether it be just engagement. And so we've done some really cool things. I mean, some of it started off with, games and online, karaoke, some of the kind of fun, maybe a little fluffier type of content. But we've now moved into, working in some celebrities. I think you joined us for Field Yates from ESPN, who helped to kind of further educate on the area of trades, because there was a big initiative around the fantasy football connection, and we had tons of teams and sold out that event. We've had, teachers that are getting into skills like cooking that have joined on healthy cooking in the barracks. We've also brought in, folks to teach simple things like, photography with your phone. So there's a new initiative with Will Byington where it's called phonography, and it advances their skill set using their phone as a way to capture the moment. So I think we've been able to do some cool things. I think there's more to come. We've got some great ideas ahead, but it's what we sometimes can't do in real life to take to virtual. And sometimes it's easier to start it in virtual, and then we actually look to how can we take it in IRL as well. So they kind of cross collaborate.
Yeah.
I wonder I don't know if you've gotten this feedback. Just assuming would be some of the first time the entertainers have worked with the military. What's their feedback as far as they had no idea, or this, because it's quite different than going to a city major like assembly center or something.
Yeah. Well, what doesn't get old on me is that it doesn't matter if it's a young artist who's not even known that does their first military show, and you see the stars in their eyes as they walk past ships if you're doing it in real life, or see folks in uniform or cross onto your first gate into a military base, so your first jet taking off literally a couple of 100 feet in front of you, or the most established folks in this business. It's really exciting to be able to give them that opportunity, and they kind of drink the Kool-Aid and want to continue to do it tour after tour, event after event. So Field Yates from ESPN was a perfect example. And after doing a couple of these fantasy football briefs for us, I just sent him his first coin with a letter and got an email back from him saying, my God, I didn't know the story, and now I have to have my coin and around with me the whole time. But really, even the Jelly Rolls and Gwen Stefani's and Shaboozis that we did on Operation MWR, neither of the three of them, as big as they are, had done anything for the Department of War before. So just to hear the questions and the commentary and the things that they were saying, it's really a special opportunity. And I remember back to my first one, it still never gets old, but it's fun to see those people do it for the first time.
All right, why don't you explain, or maybe John, what is the coin thing? A lot of people have no idea what y'all are talking about. I'm vaguely familiar with it.
Yeah, the coins are a big deal. Every command, every unit, every base. I mean, it depends what it is. Even larger events have their own customized coins. But the bottom line is, you coin somebody, you are one recognizing them, but then they're kind of your brother. And God forbid you see them in a bar sometime and they don't have that coin with them because they're buying you a drink.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
all I remember. Carry a lot of coins around when I think I'm going to run into old friends. So
Yeah.
yeah, but no, it's a big tradition. Law enforcement has it. I mean, they're over there, but it really kind of grew into the military. It's a big deal because you've got your shipmates, you got your people you serve with all over the world. So those are mementos that you really carry with. That really do mean
Yeah.
something.
I mean, there's something about, like, you want to have like the highest ranked coin with you, so you try to work your way up the command to try to get one from one of the big guys.
Yeah, having a coin first, as John said, is a real token of appreciation and an honor. If you get into some of those challenges at the aforementioned bar that John mentioned, it may be rumored that the ranked of the coin might start to supersede some of the other coins. So if you're looking for somebody to pick up a bar tab, you might be looking a little down the ladder at the Degy coin, counting for 0 other than giving it by Ari, as opposed to a commanding officer or an executive officer coin.
Yeah.
He has to factor that into his fees. You never know.
I'm proud that we made a coin this year, bringing entertainment to those that serve. I just felt like at least I was able to go around and, quite candidly, for some of the entertainers, I'm able to thank them myself. Because in many ways, I feel like I'm an extension of the DOW when we go out on these tours and bring these folks. So many of our folks across the DOW obviously are giving out coins. I felt like we needed to do something for the entertainers. And on the flip side, I can't do what I do on any installation without the support of the MWR folks. So I have to give them the coin as well. So John's got his Degy coin.
I apologize for going off camera there for a second, but I had to reach to my U.S. flag with over 150 coins on it. But I ran into Ari at NRPA, and he coined me. I certainly appreciate it, and I think this is all the stuff he's doing. This is a pretty cool coin, and for him to be that big, to be able to have his own coin to coin some of those people back, just tells you what he does to serve the Department of War. So thank
Not
you.
big, John. I put my flip-flops on, one flip-flop at a time every single day. I just walk the dog and clean up the crap. I do it like everybody else.
If I ever run into you, I'm going to make sure I have this. I'm not buying any rounds. So
Sounds good.
Hey, before we get off fantasy football, move on to other things. I did mention, I think I mentioned to you, I had started up an initiative through Armed Forces Recreation and some of my connections through the service reps. And I had someone that was in the fantasy football industry before it kind of blew up. It was in 2007, 8, 9, in that time frame. And we started a program that actually was promoted through various channels to all the services. We probably had 600-700 people there, and it was kind of a weekly thing. You picked your score. It was the precursor to what DraftKings does, because you weren't stuck with an exact team you could pick out. So anyways, the bottom line is we tried to have it. We had it for about 3 years. Gave some great prizes out. I always wanted to figure out how we could do this on a regular basis. So I was super excited to see what you were doing, and then to be able to bring the subject matter expert like Phil Yates and some of the others to come out and actually talk strategy and talk fantasy football. my mind was going, God, we need to do this at a bigger scale, larger scale. So anything more coming related to fantasy football in this world where we can corral the Department of War into the greatest competition for the most popular sport there is out there?
Yeah, well, I'm lucky, of course, just to support a lot of smart people, that I work with. I want to give credit to Brooke Haley and Jessica Donnelly over in the VSSB program. They really came up with the fantasy football idea, and then they said, Ari, how can you augment it? And I go out there and try and support it. Yeah, we got some tricks up our sleeve. I don't want to give too much out too quickly, but I think, as you try and find a way to touch on what's the next thing that influences our enlisted, military servicemen or women, from sports to, crazy different things like food and celebrities and drones and whatever the case may be. I think there's a lot that's up our sleeve that we can take both virtually and in real life.
Yeah. Sounds good. Hey, I know you're a big Michigan fan. Great basketball team right now. Few challenges with the football team, but I was super impressed with your personal story of the Ohio State game, Michigan State, going back about a month ago, and you saying your daughter asked, probably wasn't in the plans, but she asked, and you made it happen for her, and you had a great, memorable trip back to your alma mater at Michigan. So I always like to cut in a little trivia, probably be doing that on the show a little bit, but who is the only U.S. president that actually got drafted into the NFL from the University of Michigan?
Was it Ford?
Gerald Ford.
Mm.
And the second part of the question, what team drafted him?
Ooh. Well, I don't know, but he's so big in Michigan. I'll stick with Detroit.
Green Bay Packers drafted
Really?
him. He ended up not playing because I think he was in the Naval Reserve and he went to law school at Yale and never played, but the Packers drafted him. So there you go, people.
All right. I'm one for two. At least I know a little Michigan knowledge.
There you go.
Okay. So we've alluded to it. Let's talk Operation MWR. Jelly Roll, Gwen Stefani, you had Shabuti in Jacksonville. One was in Norfolk, one was Jacksonville. Mega concert, biggest thing I've seen in the Navy in terms of something like that, specifically in CONUS, and just a major show. Not that I really had a whole lot to do with it at all, but I was a fan from afar of what was happening because I understand Navy Entertainment, I understand size and scope, and what it would take to put this on. So tell us about the efforts, how that came about, to booking major acts like this, to the logistics of being able to put them on a military base, and then successfully just hitting a home run. I mean, these events were hugely successful, both of them. Tell me about that.
Yeah, look, this idea, started obviously a couple of years ago, so it wasn't really Shabuzi and Gwen and Jelly Roll that started Operation MWR. That was Operation MWR 2. Operation MWR 1 was really the precursor that, an idea started where we wanted to find a way for Navy Entertainment to continue to use the word MWR to push what the initiative is. I think that, the older sailor, the older soldier, MWR was part of the fabric. I think maybe we've lost a little bit of that at times with some of our newer sailors and enlisted folks. And the, real momentum behind Operation MWR was to use those three letters to reestablish itself. And we felt if we could take it in some big way and serve a show from Navy MWR Entertainment across the world and try and hit 70 plus installations during the month of May, that would be a big win to be able to give them a free event of some sort. So some got small events in Operation MWR 1 because they can only support a small event. And some got, pretty big ones like Norfolk with Dirk Bentley and Colby Collet and Weezer out in California. But that showed us that there was an appetite for big concerts. And sometimes you have to continue to reinvent yourself. And so the great brass at CNIC said, how can we do it bigger? How can we do it differently? And, Operation MWR 2 got its start. It might have been a little bit different had things not changed too much in January and February of last year. But we were able to get the Norfolk and the Jacksonville dates rolling. A lot of work behind the scenes, a lot of work specifically by the CNSC team, especially Brooke Haley. But we had a group of bases that got together. They discussed what acts were apropos, what they were interested in. And we finally put our, efforts together on focusing on Jelly Roll. We thought he had the right message. We obviously had to make sure that, we could get it done. We could get it done within budget. The whole process of booking the concert is so many different steps until you actually see it in front of the curtain. And so without getting too much into it, we probably spent, 2-3 months on the ideation and development and offer stage. We spent another month or so on the contract stage. And then it was a good 6 months on actually dialing it in to get ready for execution. A big team from our end at Degy, a big team from each of the installation MWR folks, a big team from CNIC that came out to support them. And all together, we were able to super serve, 30,000 people at one, 40,000 in another. The numbers were great. The artists were even better. They talked about the message, resiliency and support for our service members and their families. They really got it for 3 artists that had never done it before. And so it made the experience was incredibly special for all of us.
Yeah, what's kind of the message y'all kind of cue them up for? What, to be on point, what does that look like?
To get the artists ready, here's what I've learned in my 29 years of doing this. You don't tell the artists much. You tell their team much, and then you let them, relay what we need. The great thing about the 3 artists that we chose is we didn't have to force feed them any messaging to get out there and do what they needed to do. I think they just felt the experience. They understood the calling. We do talk to artists, and, for any of the installation POCs out there, you have to talk to the artists or their teams ahead of time and add some language in about the things we don't talk about when it comes to entertainment and events with the Department of War. There are some things that are just off limits, but those artists got up on stage and they said and did all the right things. They talked about what it means, for the call of duty when you're called in the middle of the night. Go look at some of the stuff that Jelly Roll said from the stage, the interviews. We were able to actually secretly record, not secretly to the artist. The artist teams actually greenlit it, but we recorded each of those shows, and we had special interviews done with each of the 3 artists. We added them to a bit of an edited video. And then we actually sent those out to some of the ships overseas to surprise them, since they couldn't be back there with their friends and families for the concert. So those are special experiences, and all the artists were willing participants in that process.
Sorry, I dropped off the face of the earth. I lost power in my computer. Actually,
good thing we had a co-host. I'd be asking questions to myself.
Yeah, we rolled with it.
Hey, with the big acts, and like you said, Jelly Roll, I mean, most of our big acts, you got to make sure they're screened and don't have issues or political aspirations or things that have come up that will negatively impact our audience. But how about just working with Gwen Stefani or Jelly Roll? Were they easy to work with? Were they, not everybody's always easy to work with. They put on great performances, but you don't know what's happening backstage. Were these 2 pretty easy to work with?
Yeah. And, to your point, John, I don't think it's that artists are without issues, because I think Jelly Roll was a big conversation in the precursor to that offer. Run a vetting report on him, just Google it. He'll be the one to tell you that he was a stupid kid who got in a lot of trouble and did jail time. And for any of us who are in the, DOW know that getting onto a military base when you've had that sort of a track record is not that easy. So we had to do some work on the front end, making sure that there was a level of support and clearance, and that everybody was cool with what was going to happen. Those 2 artists, and Shabuzi on top of it, Houston should not be forgotten as the 4th artist on those shows. They were all a dream to work with. Those shows went as smoothly because them and their teams are true professionals and made it easy for us. That's not to say that we don't have artists where you don't see things behind the stage, you don't see things leading up to it, that there aren't challenges that are involved. The good news is that, again, most of the time, the artists that I get to work with are, willing to step up to the plate. And the most important thing is what, the sailors and their families and others see in front of that curtain. And almost all the time, we're able to execute it at a high level.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's good. We always hear about hospitality riders and crazy things. Anything in this show? And then my second part of that question is, what's the craziest thing you've ever seen on a hospitality rider?
Well, there are lots of crazy things on many of them. I remember Bob Dylan's very extensive rider that had lots and lots of stuff for an American Red Cross Ohio event that I did many years ago. And I'm not sure how much of that was actually eaten, but there was a lot of stuff on there. Sometimes crazy enough, I call them testers. Some of these riders are 20 and 30 pages, and they want to make sure that the people on the other end are actually reading them to execute them the right way. Many of the things that are in the rider are exactly what they need in order to perform well. So I respect how crazy some of them sometimes are. Being on the road is difficult, and you want to make sure that you can do your job the best way. I think something I do remember is that there was a tester where there was little guinea pigs that were polka dotted colored, put in the middle of a pig pen on the side of the stage an hour before the show time. It was obviously a BS request, but it was on like page 14 of 15 just to make sure. And it said, ha, 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 at least you read this far. So those are some of the cool things and the fun things that, the artists are trying to do to just make sure that you execute. Do you do everything in a rider? Of course not. I think those riders from those artists were completely sensible and easy, and we were able to serve them the right way.
Yeah, they kind of the philosophy, ask for the world, and you just want to get what you want to get.
Yeah, look, most of the times the artists will say really important in there, and most of that really important stuff are the things that they need in order to perform well. Like anybody else, an athlete needs the right bat and the right glove, and an artist needs the right things, whether it's throat coat for their pre-show routine, or some sort of gym equipment, or a massage therapist, whatever it is that gets them ready to do their job well. I can completely appreciate it. I've seen a lot of weird things in 29 years, but most of the time I just look past it and say, how do we get it done?
Yeah.
Ari, I'm curious as to what, I know you probably have a why as a man, as an entrepreneur or whatever, but is there any kind of strong why that drives you to continue to serve the military in that way?
Well, I can't even think to do what I see these guys and gals do on a regular basis. And I'm one of the lucky ones that gets to see it, up close firsthand. I've done the trap deck and, in the cat shot. And I've done last week, I was on a Black Hawk helicopter flying out to an aircraft carrier, which was a poignant moment for me on a welcome home from a 9-month deployment on a ship, sailing in, I had never done before, and to see an entire aircraft carrier deck lined 2 feet around with sailors who were at the attention until the bell rang, and then at some point could let loose and call their family member. Just special moments like that. Those are the things that really allow me to at least feel like I'm a part of their lives, to feel like I'm a part of their development. But most importantly, and I've gotten the opportunity to go overseas many times, OCONUS, really when you're away from families for that long and you missed your son or daughter being born, or you haven't seen your husband or wife since shortly after you got married, like hearing the stories, me being able to kind of take them away from that for a little bit, focus on some love and a slice of America, and really boost the morale and excitement. That's me doing, to the little extent that this body can, to serve our folks that serve.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah, and Craig, I don't know if we mentioned it earlier, the size and scope of MWR, but we actually have fun and fit bosses. Someone, a MWR recreation specialist on board that go out on deployments, and someone who focuses on fitness out there to support. I mean, you literally have communities. If they've got a full air wing, it's close to 5,000 people on a carrier. So it's a small city, and that's how dedicated we are. And again, those are civilian working in the MWR world to support those folks
Yeah.
on deployment, along with bringing out entertainment and supporting them the best we can.
Yeah.
So,
Well, great show, guys. Any closing remarks as we kind of come to the end of our program?
No, proud to be guest one. I'm excited to see what you all do with this program. Happy to come back when there's a base and an audience that's above the moon, and we'll get into more topics. I think the good thing about MWR is it's alive and well. It's thriving. There are so many creative and new things that we have in our scope ahead. The team at Navy Entertainment, Brooke Haley and them are coming up with new things that we had a meeting this morning about something that hopefully will launch soon. It's not just about concerts. And I think that that's important to realize. It's about so much more. And as creative and unique as you can get, from bringing our hot dog eaters from Coney Island to compete in Guantanamo Bay, to some of the new things that we have coming up next, really MWR is alive, and I think it'll do a great job for both families and our enlisted sailors and soldiers and folks around the world.
Yeah. Well, Ari, I appreciate you coming on as our first guest to the show. Appreciate your work you're doing. And looking forward to help get the word out for you.
My pleasure.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me.
Already lining up guests for January, so it's going to be great. And whether you're active duty military, Department of Defense civilian, or a contractor, or just somebody in other business that wants to do business with us, we're going to talk about those conversations. But it's really about serving those that serve, and that's what the show is going to focus on.
Yeah. Awesome job. Well, great first show. Can't wait to do this every week starting on January. So for those that are tuning in for the first time, this is going to be a weekly show on the Daily Parks and Rec Show, family of shows, every Tuesday, 1:30 p.m. Eastern. We'll be talking all about the military and how they kind of celebrate and have Parks and Rec on their bases. And hopefully we have a lot of other guests similar to Ari that are serving our soldiers overseas and here locally.
Hope to see you all on the front line.
That's it. Thank you, guys. You have an awesome day.
Thanks,
Happy holidays. Take care, you.
Yeah. Bye.
They say it's just rec. Just rec, where kids learn to try again. Just rec, where confidence begins. Where teamwork, effort, and fun matter more than trophies. It's not about perfection. It's about participation. It's not just rec. It's where kids learn to love the game and themselves. It's just rec until they learn teamwork for life. It's just rec, but it's everything to them. It's more than rec. It's a movement. It's just rec until you realize it's shaping the next generation. Together, we're not just running programs, we're building a culture of confidence, connection, and community. Join us.
Welcome to DPRS Media Co., the first media company built for the people behind the Parks and Rec community. We don't just cover on Parks and Rec, we elevate it, we amplify it, we honor it. At the heart of everything we do is one mission: to serve the public servants, the professionals who design, maintain, and lead the parks that shape our communities. Under the Daily Parks and Rec Show, we produce 6 powerful platforms. Leadership in Parks and Rec, a spotlight on directors, superintendents, and visionaries shaping the future of public spaces. Facility maintenance, where the boots hit the ground, a deep dive into the systems, crews, and craftsmanship that keep our parks clean, safe, and beautiful. Young Professionals Network, shining a light on the next generation of Parks and Rec. Students, interns, and mentors sharing how we build a legacy together. Youth Sports Mastery, sponsored by National Academy of Athletics. This series is for coaches, parents, and rec leaders working to make youth sports fun, fair, and meaningful again. The Rec Room, hosted by the passionate leaders of Henry County Parks and Rec. This show brings frontline energy and real-life stories from the field. And the weekly Parks and Rec Post, our official newsletter delivering stories, insights, and community wins every week. We are DPRS Media Co. LLC, a media company with a mission to uplift the professionals who serve every community, every park, every day.